Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you have found me. I'm just thankful that you're joining me today. We are on week 44, planning ahead for a more relaxed Christmas in our book, Queen of the Castle by Lynn Bowen Walker, 52 Weeks of Encouragement for the Uninspired, Domestically Challenged, or Just Plain Tired Homemaker. I am one of those people that is a list person, and so planning is always one of those things that I enjoy. They help give me peace of mind. They kind of give me an outline of what to expect, and that helps with any anxiety that I may have. I still experience it, but it's usually not as bad when I do plan a little bit ahead and kind of have some expectations for myself for what I'm expecting of things. This is a fantastic chapter. I highly encourage you to read it. She talks about her experience with when she got married and how that what transpired coming from big families, and it made me reflect a lot on my life as a child and how Christmas seemed so simple back then. My dad's parents were divorced, and so we had two different Christmases with his side of the family, and then we had one Christmas on my mom's side, and then we spent Christmas at home. And thankfully there was an agreement that one set of grandparents hosted Christmas the Sunday before Christmas. We had a set of grandparents that hosted Christmas Eve, and then we had another set that hosted the Sunday after Christmas, and it was usually like right after church, so you get home at a decent hour before bedtime. But there was always a meal at each of those involved, and Christmas was very simple. You would receive a gift from the grandparent. The grandparents didn't feel like they had to give you multiple gifts. It was a gift, and that was always really nice. And one grandmother was really great at I think my brothers got a new sweater every year, and they were just very appreciative of it. They may not have worn all of them, but they were very appreciative, knowing the gesture behind it. But as we get older, it's definitely harder for our grandparents to know what it is we like without asking. And even then, it may not be in their budget because they have a limited budget. And then just being home all day on Christmas was just so nice. Waking up, opening gifts, going back to bed if you needed to, and you're just home for the rest of the day. And it was just lovely. As an adult, my grandparents were still living, all of them. And so Christmas became very insane. And then also, I started dating my husband when we were 17, and his parents were divorced, so we could have easily had 6, 7, or 8 Christmases, and that became unbearable when we had children ourselves. At what point are you actually home with your kids? And so that was hard, finagling that and making it happen. It was important to us to be at as many as we possibly could, because you saw family. We lived an hour away when our kids were growing up, so it was really just, it was exhausting, but to us it was worth it, and I won't trade that for the world. Just them to be able to see their cousins and grandparents and aunts and uncles that they rarely got to see. When I was growing up, we lived within 15 minutes of each of our grandparents, so it was a lot easier. But since we had moved away, we had to add the 2 hours drive time there and back. So if it was an evening thing, it did get a little bit more challenging and harder. So let's see here. As we got older, we got a little bit smarter with his side of the family, and we were able to. There were 3 biological brothers, and there was a stepbrother, and the stepbrother was a missionary in Thailand for a time being, and so the rest of us decided we were going to switch and host different big events: Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And our family took on Christmas, which was nice because then you were at least close or in the same state. If you wanted to go to Greekmas, which was my husband's mom's side of the family, who are from Greece, and we called it Greekmas. We called Easter Greekster, and they celebrated Orthodox Easter, so sometimes we'd go to that as well. But it was really nice to be able to have that opportunity of only having 1 to 2 Christmases on his side versus however many we were having, 3 or 4 or whatever it was. And on my side, it also switched a little bit, and there was, my mom switched it to either a Saturday before or Saturday after Christmas, where we did like my siblings and their families in the morning, and then in the afternoon we did extended family, and that turned into a white elephant. We tried to draw names on my husband's side of the family, and some people embraced it, others didn't, so we kind of gave up on that. But she goes on to talk about how that can make life easier. The other thing that my husband and I did is we decided that every other year we were going to do an activity with the nieces and nephews if we could. And then the years that we didn't do that, it would be a homemade Christmas. So last year was a homemade Christmas, and I made aprons for each of the nieces and nephews. And then we also put together cookies in a jar that went with those aprons. And then I have no idea. My husband usually plans this year, and it might not be on his radar yet, so I need to bring that to his attention. It also coincides with we have some of our nieces and nephews who live in Washington, and so trying to just kind of coordinate all of that. So this is the time of year where we start nailing that type of stuff down. I follow up with my mom to make sure the date, and she did change it this year, which is totally fine. It works. And we will still host Christmas for his side of the family, but I know that one family won't make it. But we're just going to continue to do that. It's something we've done for years, and it's something that we enjoy. And then even our children, we started last year picking a weekend with our children, and they're all adults. And we went to Bend, Oregon for the weekend and had a lovely time. And we've already booked that so that we can have that. But this year we've also got to move in progress, and so we do want to have an open house, so that's going to happen, and we decided to do that in November. Our oldest is expecting a baby, and so there's a baby shower involved in that, and I believe my daughter's mother-in-law is planning it. We're still kind of working in cahoots, and like she's going to kind of take the lead on it, I believe, and then I'll be whatever she wants me to do, I'm happy to do. Something else she touches on is and I really like this. She has this list. Do I want to spend lots of time at home in family fun activities? Now this is really great. You know, like some people are really good at that. Elf on the Shelf, and I love watching those. I think they're fun. It's not something that for some reason, a daily thing like that doesn't work for me. But we did do like an Advent thing with our family, which I loved. And then, funny story. One year we had, so our church would do these Advent wreath workshops, and we made an Advent wreath out of holly and all this wonderful stuff, and we had the candles in the middle. And what we would do is we would, as a family, go into we had a formal living area. It was a split level. Our family room was downstairs, but in the formal living area, that's where we would do the Advent. And we would generally light the candle, do the Advent reading or whatever, and pray as a family, and then I would blow the candle out. Well, one night I was at a meeting, and my husband went through with the Advent reading with the kids, and I was home, I think by 10 o'clock that night. It was late, and I was tired, and I would come in through the garage. My husband was downstairs in the family room. I kissed him goodnight, and I went up to bed, and he came up shortly, and 2 in the morning. I'm not a light sleeper, my husband is, but I'm the one that woke up first to the fire alarm. And I remember waking him up, and I remember walking towards the living room, and I was kind of in this haze, and I just saw this beautiful glow coming from the living room. And I just remember thinking how beautiful that glow was. And when I rounded the corner, I saw my antique tea cart alit. And I remember looking at it thinking, I'm gonna go get a towel. And I just had this piece, and at that point my husband's running into the living room, and he's like, oh my goodness, and he runs into the kitchen to get the fire extinguisher, and as I'm coming back with the towel, he's like, I got this. I'm like, okay. And I'd never really used a fire extinguisher before, and I don't know that he had either. And he had used that fire extinguisher, and it got the fire out. But what we didn't take into account was the blowback or the blowout from that fire extinguisher. So there was now dried wax, or there was now wax all over the walls and all over the photo albums that were on the bookshelf behind it. Oh, yeah. To this day, I have not fully cleaned those photo albums. I've just tried to scrape it off, and my tea cart in later years, he did sand it down and restore it for me as best he could. But the scarring has, to me, a beautiful meaning, or a beautiful memory behind. To me, it was a beautiful memory. It could have been scary, or it could have been worse, but we were very fortunate. So that fun activities. Anyway, do I want to be creative in making and giving gifts that cost less or nothing at all? And that's the other thing. Even though you might be cutting back on cost, you have to schedule in that time to create those things. And if you come from large families, that's a lot. So unless you do something like the White Elephant Gift, or you draw names. So thinking about those things. Do I want to slow down and avoid Christmas or December pressure by doing other activities instead? Like which ones? Do I want to entertain in my home? And you remember the catalog that goes along with that. What do you do? Like I have a tendency to want to clean again. I might want to decorate a little bit more. I might want to have different foods, and there's time and effort that's put into that when I entertain in my home. Do I want to experience the peace of Christmas? And of course, I think all of us would say yes, but how are you going to do that? And what does it take for you to get there? And do I want to do more for others, to give more of my time and talent? And that's where, are you going to volunteer in a homeless shelter, or help with your kids' play at church, or whatever, just those types of things? Do I want to send Christmas cards? And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Do I want to do a great job of decorating my house? And do I want to get through December without gaining weight? So there's lots of different things that we talk about, that we think about, that she mentions in here. She just has some Christmas card strategies, and this is where I had that expectation of myself of, I'm going to send these out at Christmas and blah blah whatever. But I ended up doing a newsletter, and I would like to have a family picture that I put in there as well. And we've gotten a little bit smarter with our pictures, coming from different households. My daughter lives in another city. We have a granddaughter if we want her in the photo, and my son works Saturdays, and just balancing schedules and so on and so forth. We took pictures back in September at a pumpkin patch, like the last weekend of September, when pumpkin patches were opening. We went to a pumpkin patch, a local pumpkin patch, and had our picture. We took our pictures. And that's the other thing, we don't do professional, we just do our own, and we call it good, and we're happy. I do a newsletter, kind of an update of what's been going on in our lives, and try to keep it really simple. And I don't beat myself up so much if it gets out in December. Many times it's become a New Year's letter, and I've heard many positive things from people about, I actually didn't get time to read it at all those other ones, so it's like January before I get to reading the cards. And I thought that was really interesting. I think at one year it was actually okay, it's a Valentine's Day newsletter, but it's going out. So give yourself some grace and realize that it's okay, and to not be as swamped. I also take the last weekend of the year. Usually there's not as much going on, and I have a tendency at the end of the year to make homemade cards for the next year. And so I have a list of how many male cards, female cards, etc. that I do. But she also talks about in here, order Christmas return address labels if you need them. She's saying pick a day in October, November where you actually just write out your Christmas, the labels. I don't. I actually print labels. I have a database and I print them. Just because I don't want to spend the time. I try to at least write in the card if I can, but it's okay. It's okay. She talks about rewarding yourself. She's saying, by buying a scented candle, something, holiday sticker, something like that, or buy Christmas stamps that are available mid to late October. You definitely want to buy stamps before the price goes up, because then you can get your forever stamps and they last a little bit longer. Also, she talks about assigning certain cards to certain people, like this is my husband's family, so side of the family, so he has more of a connection with so-and-so, or Uncle Harry, maybe he can write that card. But definitely don't make yourself crazy with perfectionism. I love that she says that. Do what it is that you can do. I love receiving cards. I love it when someone sends me a newsletter. I love being able to catch up that way versus Facebook, because Facebook is just so hodgepodge here and there when we post. or at least for me it is. And if you just can't get out, it's okay. If you can't get it done, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. But definitely have a good time and enjoy yourself and find that peace the best way that you can. And just truly try to embrace the season and find those things that bring that joy into your life. And if it's spending time with people, then find ways to spend time with people. And find out what your family likes to do. I think my husband and I are going to fit in a football game at his the college he graduated from, and that's always exciting to be able to do that. And there's special gardens that have opened up since we've moved out of the Salem, Oregon area that we'd like to go to. There's also McMenamins in our area, the Pacific Northwest. It's a wonderful place to go spend time with friends, going out to eat or having a drink. But just find time and enjoy life to the best of your ability. Blessings, and I will see you next week as we talk about keeping Christ in Christmas.